Okay, good morning. My name is Bob Deschner, and we're here today to show you some of the techniques we've used personally, as well as with our veterans, with the Vet Trip program, that help reduce stress and help reduce discomfort. I don't know about you, but all the staying at home and eating comfort food and sitting in front of the TV and eating comfort food and getting on the computer and eating comfort food, I packed on about 10 pounds the first year. And I realized that wasn't a good thing. So I figured I could lose weight. It'd be easy, right? When I was younger, it was really easy to do that. You just go exercise. But that was making me achy and sore, and I couldn't sustain the exercise level. So I used some of the techniques that we developed with our Vet Trip program to reduce the pain so I could exercise. At the same time, the stress of craving to eat food and all the other stuff, it helped relax me. So I'm going to show you some of those techniques. And the first one we're going to go to is called Vet Trip Salute. And the reason we call it the Vet Trip Salute is you always salute on the right side, and it's usually the right side of the neck that calms. So the back of the hand, you can use either hand, but use the back of the hand on the left side of the neck. Right side of the neck. Thank you. I need the feedback. I'm out of practice, folks. It's been a long 2 years. So the back of the hand on the right side of the neck with 3 slow, deep, open mouth exhales like this. It's kind of like a sigh, so do 2 more with me. How many people feel a little more calm with that? Good. 1 out of 7 of you have to do it on the left side. That's the way God made you. So you might want to do it again and try it on the left side and see if that makes a difference, more so. 3 slow, deep breaths. How many people felt more relaxed on the left side? Anybody? Look at that. It's about 1 out of 7. Isn't that neat? So on the side that makes it best for you, the right side or the left side, you also want to touch 2 points here on the left side of the top of your head. Little finger right here, pointer finger right there off this top point. And that helps mood and awareness. So do the 3 slow, deep breaths and use whichever side works for you on the neck. How'd that make you feel? A little more lighter? Feel a little bit better? If you're stressed and craving that food, that really does a good job for me to help calm that craving down. The idea is you do it as long as you want to, and you do it several times a day until you get in the zone, and then you just have to think about it, and you're back there. So practice really works with this, and that helps a lot with the relaxation side. It also helps your neck be a little more flexible and not hurt as much. May help some headaches a little bit, other people have told us. The next thing we call the Vet Trip Parade Rest, because if you've ever seen in the military, when they're relaxed and standing, they're not at attention, they're at parade rest. And it's literally the back of the hands overlapping on the back of the, on your low back, around the belt line, small the back, whatever you want to call it. If it hurts a little bit lower, you can lower the hands, but move it where it's comfortable. You can use one hand if you want to. And you do the same thing. And this time you're visualizing the palm of your hands radiating warmth because you want to cool the back of your hands. So try this again. You can do it sitting down just as easily as you can standing up. Ready? How many people feel a little more calmer, real relaxed in your back? Not everybody will feel that, but that's where most people need to unblock and calm down. So then you turn your hands around like this. And again, you can use one hand or both, whatever's comfortable for you. If you can just get it to your hips, that's fine. But you want the warmth of your hands to go into your back and warm up your back. And we use the breathing to help increase the intensity. You may find that you start to yawn, which is a good reaction. How many people feel that warmth in your back? Just nod. Good. The next step is you want that warmth to sink down into your knees and your feet. If you're standing, you can point 2 fingers and put them on either side of your legs. Or sitting, just put your hands on your knees and put that warmth into your knees. Allow that warmth to gently sink down into your feet. How many people feel better with their back, knees, and feet? Good. If it doesn't feel better right away, practice helps as well. And it's important to do this when you first get up in the morning. You can do it laying in bed. You can do it at night before you go to bed, but before you exercise and after you exercise. But what's really neat about this is you can actually do that while you're exercising. I was lazy. I'd lay in bed and do some leg lifts and do some crunches and do some other things I could do while I'm laying in bed. And I found that I could only do about 15 or 20 leg lifts, even single leg lifts when I got started. So I would lay in bed with the back of my hand on that side and do my leg lifts, and I could get up to 60 leg lifts without too much of a problem. And I wasn't hurting afterwards. So the next day I wasn't stiff and sore and whatnot. So I can use these techniques while I'm exercising to get more exercise with less soreness. It's not like when you're younger, all pain, all gain. It's no pain, no gain when you're my age, okay? So you might want to try to do those things on a regular basis. The next one is one that's really, really good because it goes throughout your body and hit. And wait a minute, I have an extension to that one. On the head relaxation, how many people get headaches, stiff neck, soreness, neck and shoulders, hands? Reach back and feel the back of your head and feel for some bumps that are sensitive. Now, some of you can't raise your hands up that much very easily, but a visualism, and you'll probably find there's some hard bumps. In fact, they feel like they're bone. How many people are noticing that? The way to get that to relax is to tap on the inside of your collarbone like this. Use all your fingers, or 3 or 4 of your fingers. You're not pressing hard, and watch out for your fingernails. But just tap about 20 or 30 times, and that helps lymphatic drainage down your back of your neck. And then if you can, or have somebody else, and Joan, I'll do this for you later, lightly stroke down the back of your head and your neck, and see if you can make those knots turn kind of mushy and soft. And if you can turn those knots mushy and soft, you're going to find that you can move your head and neck around, and a lot of times it'll make a migraine or extended headache go away. How many people feel a little bit better there? You'll be amazed at how many times you think it was bone and it was really a knot. And there are little lymphatic nodules that get blocked there, and they get very tender, and they build up lactic acid. So now we're going to go to what we call battlefield auricular therapy. It was developed in 1947 by a French doctor. He was trying to come up with a way to use acupuncture on soldiers so they could go back into battle without having drugs in their system and being slow and groggy and medicated. And he found out that if you put needles in certain places on the ear, if you've done reflexology, or if you've gone to an acupuncturist that does that, they'll put needles or beads or magnets in your ear. But you can do the same thing by touching your ear. And I'm going to make it really simple. The bottom half of the ear is the head, neck, and shoulders. The upper front rim of the ear and the center of the ear, that's the back, knees, and feet. So we'll start out with the head points, and you just put 2 or 3 fingers there on the bottom V of the ear and those little bumps, and you can kind of wiggle them around a little bit. You don't want to press them to make them hurt, and do open mouth exhales. Kind of feels good, doesn't it? And you can lay there in bed and do this, in the middle of the night when you're hurting and your leg's hurting and your foot hurting, your back's hurting, you can reach up there and just touch that. Now, the upper part of the ear, you can put one finger literally in the center of your ear, this kind of flat ridge that's almost horizontal, and this front edge anywhere along there. There's the feet, there's the knees, and there's the hips, and then there's the back. So even when you're walking around, my neighborhood, yes, thinks I'm weird. Because sometimes I'll walk around like this if my legs are hurting. And this helps. 3 slow, deep breaths, exhale. When I'm doing my leg lifts, I would take one hand, put it on my back on the same side, reach around with the other fingers and touch the center of the ear and the front, and then do my leg lifts. And I got to doing 3 sets of 60 leg lifts just by doing that. And it didn't hurt, I wasn't sore, it didn't wear me out, and it helped burn up energy so that I could lose that weight. I'll give you a couple other secrets about losing weight. The first thing I did was cut my main course in half. I ate all the fun stuff. The vegetable dips and stuff like that. I still ate all that, but main course I cut in half. Second thing I did is I exercised every day at least something. Ideally, we'd walk at least 5 days a week. And the third thing I did is I stayed hungry. If you're hungry, chances are you're going to be losing weight. And then once your stomach shrinks, it's not too bad. But then you can use this to calm down any stress you feel from feeling hungry. But there's another tip that they've researched thoroughly, and it really works. I tried it myself over Christmas. I lost 10 pounds over Christmas and the holidays. Don't eat after dark. It turns out your liver's functioning better during the daylight because we're built to eat during the daylight hours. And at night, the liver shuts down for repairs. And if you eat at night, the liver has to gear up and it doesn't get any slack. That's the explanation for it. But the fact is, you can eat 25% more and lose the same amount of weight. So you can either eat more or you can eat less and lose more weight if you eat during the daylight hours. So those are my tips. Those are my tricks on how to do it. We're going to save the questions till later. I'm going to turn it over to Dottie now, and she's going to tell you about mindfulness meditation and some of the great things she's doing with the Vet Trip program and the veterans.
Hello, everybody. Somewhere I have a microphone. Hello, everybody. So we're stepping into a healthy spring. And it's important to also address the mental component. The mind, we need to use it to keep us calm and grounded and thinking those positive thoughts, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future, not being fearful. Easier said than done, right? We all know the mind has a way of just rambling and this thought and that thought, and most of them are negative, and the mind never shuts down. It's always going rah, 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 rah. But if we can be mindful, carefully notice what's going on with our thinking, then we can use the mind to guide us towards feeling better and letting go of stress. You probably have heard the word mindfulness, or you may already have a mindfulness practice, right? mindfulness, kind of a buzzword today. Mindfulness is paying very close attention to the present moment. You know, it's the be here, now, in the present. But it's doing so without any judgments. No judgments. It's not worrying about the past or the future. It's focusing on things like right now you're breathing, or whatever sensations you have going on in your body. Maybe focusing on some music that's playing and really paying close attention. Taking a walk and noticing the beautiful clouds, the color of the sky, the flowers, the birds, the sounds, really noticing everything in the present moment. When you're doing so, you're not worried about the past and you're not worried about the future. You're just really focused on everything right now. And it's very, well, it's a practice. You got to practice this, and you will not always be successful. Happens to all of us. You can't stay focused on the positive all the time. So when a thought comes in that you really don't want to have in your life, you just kind of acknowledge it without emotion, without judgment, and just let it float off and come back to center. When you come back to center, you're back in the present. I'm thinking here at Unity, people might want to come back to center and say the word God or grace. Don't have to say anything. It's kind of whatever works for you. But over time, you'll be less vulnerable to those negative thoughts that just run in the head, and that self-awareness can make you feel better and let go of some stress. Mindfulness is near and dear to my heart, especially right now, because VetTrip is doing a research study with UT Health. UT Health got a small grant. They put together this study, and our veterans are using what's called the Mindfulness Coach app on their phones, and we meet with them on Zoom, and we step them through a process each day, listening to different parts of the app. It's a month-long study, and UT Health is doing assessments before, during, and after. And we're getting wonderful feedback from the vets. And these are veterans with post-traumatic stress, really serious issues, but they're getting a lot of help. And the great thing about this app is that it's free to everybody. All of you can download it. We'll have the links for you. You can share it with anybody you want. I'm excited, especially because we're already giving really positive feedback from the veterans saying, wow, this stuff is really good. Now, they don't say that right at first. You got to practice. You got to get into it. But they're sticking with it. And they're finding their two most favorite apps, most of us are telling us, the ones that focus on the breathing, and there's one on loving kindness. Wow, how's that? Okay. I want to play the app, the breathing, the awareness of breathing. I think it's going to pick up just fine here on the microphone. So let me see if I can play it here. We'll have the links for you and some other information, like when you pull up the app, you'll see a part that says Build Expertise, and that's where you can learn a whole lot more about mindfulness. It's very well written. There's a place to tap that says Practice Now. And when you pull that up, it'll give you just two parts of this app. One is, one is called a seated practice, and one is called awareness of senses. But what's really important to know is if you go up to the right corner, tap on all, you'll get a long list of all the various possibilities. We have a certain order, certain ones we do with the veterans, but you can just kind of explore and play with all this, kind of go with whatever seems to resonate with you. Okay, let me see if I can get the, let's see. This is an 8 minutes, and you'll hear a lady's voice kind of guiding you through. She teaches kind of a little bit with what she's saying, and then the last several minutes is just focusing on your breath. And if you notice, every technique Bob was showing you, breath was a good part of that, a big part of that. And often we hear our ministers saying, take a deep breath with me, relax into your breathing. So, that's kind of your life force in there. So tuning into your breath is a really good thing. Okay, all right, let me see if I can get this going here.
Sit comfortably in a chair with your feet on the floor and your body upright. Begin by noticing your body's contact with the environment. Feel yourself sitting in your chair. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the bend of your knees or elbows. Feel the clothes on your skin. Then let your gaze gently soften and take a moment to pay attention to all the sounds that you hear. Gently release your attention from the sounds around you and place your attention on the tip of your nose. Begin to notice your breath moving in and out of your nostrils. Notice the change in air temperature between the in-breath and the out-breath. The air is slightly cooler when you breathe in than when you breathe out. Gently follow your breathing, noticing the air in your nostrils, with a gentle awareness also noticing the rise and fall of your chest and belly. Relax into your breathing and allow it to be natural and unforced. Simply noticing breathing. If you become distracted by your thoughts, simply notice this and return your attention to your breathing. If you get distracted 100 times, that's okay. Bring yourself back 100 times. Just keep coming back to your breath, noticing the rise and fall. Now take the next few minutes to attend completely to your breathing.
And when you're ready, bring your attention back to the present room. Open your eyes. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the seated position. And say any kind of beautiful affirmation that's important to you. Like, I am guided by grace. Okay, I cut that short a little bit in the interest of time here, but I think you get the idea. My favorite part of that particular practice is when the lady says, if your mind goes off in 100 times, just bring it back in 100 times, and that's fine. Anyway, there's a lot more on the app that's really worth playing with. I encourage you to try it and share it with friends, and we'll hold any questions till later. Okay, we'll turn this over to Emily now.
Thank you, Dottie. We're good. I have this. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I think everybody here knows me, but I'm Emily Briggs. I'm a family physician here in town, and every day that I'm, whether working or not working deliberately, I'm talking about people's health. I'm talking about how to be healthier and how to maintain the health that you have. And so I was very happy when Bob and Dottie asked me to give a little talk about what I talk about every day. It's important to recognize that as a family physician, I talk to people individually. But I also have a master's in public health, so looking at public health, this is much more of a public health thing. So when I'm talking to somebody individually, I try to tailor that discussion to what their needs are for their personal health. So when I'm talking about diet, about exercise, about supplements, I'm talking about something that's specific, knowing what their medical care is. So I encourage you to take this information, but to also recognize that you need to talk with your own primary care physician to make sure that this is something that works for what is working for you. But maybe you'll get some pearls of wisdom today. So looking at diet first, I love what Bob commented on, that portion size is a big thing. In the United States, and especially in Texas, everything's bigger, right? And we are very good about making sure that we have great portions. So one of the things to look at is the portion that you are serving yourself for each meal. I do typically recommend that somebody has 3 to 5 meals in a day. It depends on the size of those meals and the timing of those meals. I also appreciate the discussion about eating during light time. Now, that means that you're working during the daytime. If you're a person that works at night, then maybe that doesn't work for you. But it's important to recognize that your body goes into starvation mode after you've been more than about 5 to 6 hours away from food. And so overnight, meaning whatever that night is for you, that's a great time for your body, including your liver, to recover from the day's events. So that's a good time to be fasting. If you're not looking to bring your body into starvation mode, if you're not looking to fast, then eating something, quite honestly, every 3 to 4 hours is the best way to nourish your body. If you're eating something every 3 to 4 hours, you're using that food as fuel, and you're not storing that food as fat. So what you want to do is make sure that what you are eating is nutritious, that it nourishes you, not only your body, but also your mind. So there are some foods that I absolutely love to eat that are actually healthy for me, and I don't have to worry about those. But there are others that I absolutely love to eat that are not all that healthy for me. And so for those, portion control is very important. And also trying to maintain that eating when I'm going to be physically active. So if you can eat something that's nourishing your body every 3 to 4 hours, then you know I don't have to eat a huge amount because I'm going to eat again in 3 to 4 hours. So I don't need to eat a huge portion. I can just eat a little bit because I'm going to be nourished again very, very soon. And in the meantime, we'll get to exercise in a moment, but in the meantime, we're going to be active in the middle of that. When we're talking about portions, if you picture a typical dinner plate, if you cut that plate in half, The best way to fill that plate is to have at least half of that plate vegetables. Vegetables are what our bodies need, our bodies crave, all of those lovely colors of the rainbow. And if you can fill at least half of your plate with that, that's a great start. The other half of that plate, if you cut it in half again, then you have one half for protein and one half for what we'll say carbs. So that's the starches. So that's the, rice, potato, pasta, bread, all of those yummy things that many of us absolutely love to eat, but really isn't the most healthy thing for us to be eating or to be filling ourselves with. The typical Italian restaurant that you might go to here in town, you get this big bowl of pasta with a little bit of protein on it, a little bit of veggies on it. That is exactly the opposite of what I'm talking about today. What we want to do is have a big, well, maybe not big, but a decent-sized bowl or plate or whatever that might be, but fill it with a bed of vegetables. Fill it with a bed of greens. Greens have great folic acid, vitamin B12, and all kinds of other things that we need to keep our bodies healthy. So if you can do that and then sprinkle your proteins and your carbs on top of that, but have the main part of your plate be those great vegetables that haven't been changed too much from how nature started them out, that's the healthiest way to eat. Now, again, I have to reiterate, that's for most people. There might be something in your health that your physician would recommend that you do something else. So again, I encourage you to talk with your primary care physician to help you make those decisions. When it comes to exercise, many of you know that I absolutely love to do some of those activities. My two things that, let's see, I'm trying to think of how many years ago it was. Whenever it was, we'll say that was probably about 6 to 8 years ago when I lost about 75 pounds. And I did it by eating right and exercising. I took no supplements. I didn't do anything crazy. I ate right and I exercised. And the two exercises that I got into were Zumba and body pump. So Zumba is great because literally anybody can do it, because you don't have to be doing all kinds of crazy things. You can just be doing Zumba in your chair. You can be doing Zumba where I like to do it, in my living room, or sometimes in another room where the girls can't see me, because I am not a coordinated person, and I recognize that. So as long as I'm not falling over, it's okay. But that is what works for me. So body pump, I didn't comment on, is where you have weights, and again, to music, because as everybody here knows, music is very important to me. So when music is playing, I can do just about anything. And so body pump is an exercise routine, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, where you're using weights and focusing on certain parts of your body while doing those activities. Again, the benefit of these two is that you can tailor it to what's good for your body. So in that exercise, it's important to recognize that, again, everybody's body is different. So for some people, exercise might look like the chair exercises, sitting in your chair, moving your legs, and moving your arms perhaps above your head, or maybe just right in front of you. It might look all the way to, what is that, P90X, where people are doing backflips and crazy stuff. Whatever your exercise level is, what I would like for you to focus on is that it's at least 20 to 30 minutes a day. And if you can do that every day, fantastic. If you can't quite fit that in every day, then doing somewhere around 45 to 60 minutes, 3 to 4 days out of the week, so that you're still getting that physical activity. Exercise is different from physical activity in that exercise gets your heart pumping. Physical activity is parking in the back of the parking lot and walking to the grocery store. That's physical activity. Walking around I would say mall, but we don't have one here, but walking around wherever it might be, taking a lovely walk through nature, various versions of walking that don't get your heart rate pumping. It's just something that keeps your body moving. That's important. I have lots of patients who work at Amazon, and they are active every day. I have some that get 20,000 to 30,000 steps a day at work. That's a lot of steps, but that is still not exercise for them because they're not getting their heart pumping. Cardiovascular exercise requires that I can't have a conversation with the person next to me without taking breaths in between those sentences. That means that I'm working hard enough if I can't have a conversation with the person next to me. If I can talk to you like I'm talking right now, That is not cardiovascular exercise. And so for me, walking through nature or even going on a brisk walk would not do that to me. But that's for me. Every person is individualized. So again, 20 to 30 minutes every day, and we can do that. That's a program. If you're a TV watcher, that's a short program, 20 to 30 minutes. If not able to do that, then 45 to 60 minutes, at least 3, if not 4 days out of the week. So that's the frequency and the intensity to be able to perform. So the other thing I wanted to touch on, in these pandemic times when people have been concerned about viral infections, there are some supplements, if you don't have enough in your system, in your nutrition, that can be of benefit. One of those is zinc. Zinc is a very wonderful vitamin that helps you stay away from viruses and keep viruses away from you. But zinc is best absorbed by your body when you mix it with quercetin, which starts with a Q. Quercetin plus zinc brings that zinc down into your body more than just hanging out in the bloodstream and gives you an opportunity to actually metabolize that. And then it keeps viruses from being able to very easily attack your system. Zinc is probably the most studied and proven out of all supplements when it comes to viral infections. We have lots of studies that have shown that zinc is beneficial. There are 2 others that I usually recommend, but are not as well published as far as being of benefit. I always try to work with evidence-based medicine when I'm making recommendations. And so the other 2 that I recommend are vitamin C and vitamin D. When it comes to vitamin C, usually around 500 3 times a day. Some people like to take all 1,500 together, but 500 milligrams 3 times a day. And when it comes to vitamin D, we found that most people in this area, at least, I can't speak for the rest of the country, are deficient in vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, which means you can take too much. So again, this is where I say, talk to your doctor to make sure it's okay for you to be taking it. But usually somewhere around 2,000 to 5,000 international units is what's recommended for that vitamin D. Again, that's for people that are not specifically deficient and are certainly not over-supplemented. So, talked about diet, talked about exercise, talked about some supplements. Overall, it's important to marriage your body and your mind. And that was the big reason that I wanted to have a connection with this discussion today. Because when we can bring our mind and our bodies together, that's when we can really sing. Regularly, I have patients come into the office that are dealing with depression, that are dealing with anxiety, that are dealing with stress. This pandemic has unbelievably magnified that. And a big component of that is that people have been isolated. Isolation is not what most humans need. We are group-based activity people. Even if we're an introvert, we seem to do better with others around. Whether that person is around a huge crowd and they're built up by that, like we know Reverend Gary is, right? Our extroverts. Or if you're an introvert and you don't do well with big crowds, you need to still connect with that 1 or 2 human, or many more, that makes a difference for you. So that's the other side. I can't talk about physical wellness without talking about mental wellness, and a big component of that is decreasing isolation. So one of the big things that I do in my practice when I'm sitting with a patient and we've talked about various things that we're doing for their depression, anxiety, whatever that might be, is those 3 deep breaths. And often, of course, asking them ahead of time, I put my hands on their shoulders and we breathe together. And as they're taking a deep breath, my hands are light. And as they're breathing out, my hands are warm and heavy on their shoulders. And that encourages them to relax those shoulders, because that is where most of us hold our tension, up here or back here. And if you can take 3 deep breaths, you can change the world, because it will almost every time change your world to take 3 slow, deep breaths. By the end of that, everything melts away. So there we are. Thank you. And we'll take questions, I guess, now.
Yeah, well, you can ask questions of any of us, but did you have any questions about the techniques that I showed or that Dottie had with mindfulness or Dr. Briggs? This is being recorded, right? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all for coming. Before we turn it off, yes, yeah, before I turn it off, if you want to see some videotapes of veterans doing the techniques I just showed you today, we have a YouTube channel. Go to VetTrip, VETTRIIP, on YouTube, and you'll have videos. There's 11 videos there that'll teach you the different techniques, and you can see somebody do it, and they'll go into more detail for it. So that's a good way, a good resource for that. Any other questions before we wrap up? How many people learned some stuff today? How many people are going to do some stuff today? Persistence is the key to that. Find the thing that works for you and focus on it. The things that don't work, you don't have to do them because they're not working for you. But if you'll keep on doing it, in 1 year I lost 40 pounds. But I did it at 3 to 4 pounds a month. I did it gradual, consistent, every day. Okay, I splurged about once a week. But you try to work at something on it to get to the things with the supplements and with the eating control and the exercise every day that's going to get you on that path. I did put on 10 of those pounds in the last 6 months, and so I've only netted out 30, but I was able to get my BMI down to 30, which reduced one of my comorbidity factors or risk factors for COVID. So I encourage you, I'm going back in now that the weather's nice and I'm not overloaded with the other stuff that was interfering. So whatever excuse you have, like I did, it's okay. Go back to doing it and get back on the train. And I'm looking to lose another 20 pounds off of this. Thank you so much, Dr. Briggs. Thank you, Dottie. My name is Bob Deschner, and look to see you again with another talk. Thank you.